Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet, and today a little bit more analysis associated with the post-singular discussion. I first have to shout out Vera Sepulveda here. Vera is a long-term listener. She requested more post-singular discussion. We've had a wide variety of other folk that have asked for it. Vera was the first, and I have felt indebted to Vera up until now, actually recording this associated with what it means to live in a post-singular environment. I've talked periodically on Stone Ape associated with what happens to history in a post-singular environment. And ultimately, what you get is a complete compression, almost a devastation, for want of a better term. I'm not even really sure how one would describe it. Basically an elimination of the concept of history. The notion of past, the notion of, day to day, even potentially the notion of future in a historical sense, which I don't think has really existed since probably the mid-80s. I mean, this is where I get to associated with my discussion of post-singular. But what remains, because obviously there needs to be something instead of history in this context, is a sense of kind of residual irony, which I think is captured in a lot of science fiction writing. And here I'm creating a great faux pas, because one of the things that I hate most is folks that walk up to me and say, "Oh, that noble ape thing. Yes, I read about that in a science fiction book. It's not like it was a portion of my life or anything. I just could have read the book and, 19 years would no longer need to be undertaken." There are other abstract things associated with your existence within, for example, the economic structure. And I think historically, pre-post-singular, folks had a different sense of their existence in the society and within the economic structure. In a post-singular universe, we no longer have any notion that we are anything more than just a kind of element in a vastly complex system that we have no insight into and no control over. And I think notions, for example, of a job for life, notions, for example, of a career, of financial stability, of a sense that, there were certain things that could be done that would enable one to retire at a particular time. All these kind of concepts are pre-post-singular, in my view, and illustrate really where we are now as opposed to, what had existed historically. I like to force the point associated with history, but I think increasingly it's a language that no one else speaks. I think the notion that certain things occurred in the past, certain things very similar to what might be going on currently, and the fact that an understanding of this in some degree of context enables us potentially, hopefully, not to repeat the same mistakes. This notion is just kind of sandwiched, shoved away, meaningless, completely and utterly some kind of cult associated with a past that no longer is in any way present in the current idea space. And really, it's these elements, it's these subtle things that one just perceives associated with a broad society that is moving independently of any previous rationality that points to the post-singular universe. I periodically am interviewed associated with my views of the post-singular universe, and I always return to the notion of the anthropomorphic divide, that actually our fantasy mind, our fantasy of the mind, for want of a better term, is the thing that enables us to remain so totally oblivious to the fact that we exist in a post-singular universe. And exploring this is a topic for probably considerably more time than I can utilize in a short funk recording. Aside to say that I have been interviewed previously, periodically, on a number of other recordings associated with this very specific topic. And I can point folks to those audio recordings. Or maybe even better, maybe I can provide a best of mixtape somehow in the short funk format. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.